Well, as India Inc. heads into the Union Budget, expectations from India Inc. are very clear. Sustain growth, protect fiscal credibility and simplify taxes as well. And of course, stay globally competitive. CII's feedback, of course, to the government underscores a familiar but very urgent message. Policy certainty, faster execution, and of course, reforms that unlock private investment as well. And to highlight that, today we've got a battery of experts who know better than anyone else what the agenda for the finance minister this time around should be. Our CII panelists, Rajiv.
That's right. We have joining us today Rajiv Memani, who is the president of CII, Mr. R. Mukundan, who is the president designate at CII, and Mr. Piruz Khambatta, who is the chairman National Committee on Taxation. To begin with, Mr. Memani, we just saw the economic survey, giving out a medium-term outlook for medium-term growth of 6.5%. Do you think that we have the potential to go beyond 6.5% if we do take more structural reforms in this budget?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next year's outlook is 6.8 to 7.2%. I think that's what the economic survey states. And I think which would lead to, and they've also said that the inflation is likely to be slightly higher than what it was this year. This year it was very, very muted. So you are looking at almost a nominal growth of close to 10%, but the inflation would still be less than or within the tolerable band. So you're looking at a nominal growth of 10% or so as per the economic survey, which I think is quite good. And it also talks extensively about the current geopolitical, geoeconomic issues that are there. So in that context, relying on the strength of the domestic economy and relying on the strength of reforms that the government is setting up, I think it's a good template to look at.
Right. Mr. Mukundan, if I could get you in on the discussion, while growth is holding up, it's all about global trade, geopolitics, and rates remaining volatile right now. From an industry standpoint, what's the biggest macro risk you think policymakers must address at this current hour and, of course, in the union budget?
Thank you. Firstly, I think what I want to say is a very balanced economic survey which has come out, which is very pragmatic. It is not saying that the situation is so volatile that we can't cope with it. It actually provides a lot of pathway to address those issues, the very issues you are raising. And I think the focus fundamentally is to become internally resilient and strong. And the key themes around which they're highlighting the path forward, and the economic survey is very clear about it, is systemic deregulation, the ease of doing business 2.0 as they want to, as they called it. And also within that, of course, there are two basic elements. I think they've highlighted there needs to be the operating principle has to shift towards what they call as hold someone innocent till proven guilty, and make sure that the process shifts to trust-based system. The second piece which they've clearly highlighted, which we've been highlighting to the government also, is that somehow we need to nudge the states to liberalize and ensure that the ease of doing business filters down to states at every point. And the Jan Vishwas 2.0 continuity, unified portals right across, and the judicial efficiencies are very, very critical. The second piece they actually also highlight is the whole point around addressing the challenge of AI. That's another big shift which is happening in addition to geopolitics, where fundamentally the focus, they are highlighting the focus with a key strength of India in any case, which is our growth in AI is going to be application-led rather than building huge infrastructure, and fundamentally preparing our human capital to be ready for it. Then, of course, they've gone to highlight some of the sectoral champions. I think there can be a debate, but from the perspective of the survey, I could actually pick out three of them: semiconductors, textile, renewable energy. These seem to be one of the key elements. Lastly, I think if you look at in any economic survey, or it's a prelude to being the budget and the focus of the budget, it must focus on jobs. And clearly, there is an element of focus on gig economy, which is very, very positive. And I saw a very strong flavor of focusing on health. Health of the workforce, well-being of the workforce, rather than just how many people are employed. I think that's a very, very positive shift. I think nudging the private sector, nudging the corporate sector to build a very healthy and resilient workforce is equally important. So, all in all, I think growing internally strong, addressing the issues we need to do to our own industry to become more resilient is the focus. I don't want to leave out the MSME. MSME also has been a big focus here in this whole discussion. So more of it later, but I think the key points the survey is highlighting is all in the right boxes.
Piruz, you head the National Committee on Taxation at CII. Can you take us through what is the kind of changes or structural changes that you are from CII is recommending with respect to changes to taxation, tariff structure, and maybe policy reforms in so that more investments can come into the country?
Actually, economic survey speaks the same language we have been speaking. And in my mind, in the recent the FTA we have just signed, we have to make India a manufacturing destination for the world. We can sell to Europe today almost anything and everything. Now, having said that, we definitely need a lot of things to help get more manufacturing going in India. And I somehow believe that time has come to look at accelerated depreciation in a big way. We need tax credits for investments to come in so that people invest. And I'm saying small, medium, large, everybody. And these are the type of things we need more money to come into capital. Other than that, we have been asking the government for a lot of tax clarity. And there, I believe, in indirect taxes, time has come for an amnesty scheme. And I think an amnesty scheme will take care of unnecessary litigation. See, we want to free businessmen from litigation, want them to concentrate on business. Amnesty helps the government unlock unnecessary litigation, get money in their pocket. So I believe that is something we are happy for the budget. EODB in every way, especially in taxes, is required. A complete digital track that everything in taxes we do should be online. There should be no paperwork. We are also looking at an ADR, what I call alternate dispute resolution, both in indirect and direct taxes. I somehow believe everything should not be going to court. And for that, a settlement authority, a dispute resolution committee to ensure only cases which are worth going taken. The department cannot file appeal in almost every matter to take back cases which are unnecessary there. So we need quite an amount of what I call ease of litigation also going. Other than that, we are looking at tax reforms in terms of SEZs. I think the SEZs story of India is still incomplete. And I think a lot of tax reforms are required in SEZs. The government has come out with schemes on manufacturing, warehouses, they require some benefits there. RODTEP, which is a scheme, especially to ensure that we get back our own money. RODTEP is what? RODTEP is my money. So that requires a lot of changes. And most important, the custom duty slabs. If you saw GST, lately welcome, we have rationalized the slabs. Industry is happy. Unnecessary litigation has ended. Classification disputes have ended. In customs, I honestly believe there are too many slabs. We need lesser slabs. So that will overall rationalization of custom duty slab is definitely something which will help industry, which will help government also. Coming to the direct taxes, I think the government has done a lot of good job on personal tax. And I definitely believe it is greatly welcome. Yet other than that, in direct taxes, we also want simplification of tax, simplification of the return forms, once again, alternate dispute resolutions. So this is our direct tax. I somehow believe the economic survey talks of both things. It talks of domestic demand and it talks of FDI. In my mind, for domestic demand, we need more money into people's hands. And more money in people's hands will come through rationalization of taxes, which we have just seen in GST. In GST has actually flipped. I come from FMCG, and we have seen definitely there is a whole flip in the economy, even in the rural economy, the GST rationalization. I somehow believe we should give the government a little bit more confidence. Then let us go ahead and now rationalize other taxes also, because that will also give an overall flip to the economy. Similarly, what FDI, when we are talking, wanting more FDI, what we want, what the foreigner look. Foreigner looks at more, they don't mind paying taxes, honestly, but they want clarity. They want clarity on, and they want a level playing field. And I think so that is something we owe to the foreigners so that they come and invest. We need to give them so that more FTA can be attracted and we take the full benefit of the FTAs in front of us. So this is the bullet points of what I think we will be asking for. There are many other things, but for paucity of time, maybe this is what I'd like to concentrate.
Okay, well received. Mr. Memani, if I could just switch gears from the economic survey to the budget now next. How would you describe the mood in the industry right now? Would you say it's more confident, cautious, or conflicted as we're just days ahead of the budget?
Well, I would say the mood is very confident, as it is reflected in the overall GDP growth numbers that India has been looking at. And even if you look at what the economic survey says and others, credit rating has improved, fiscal deficit is under control, various reforms that the government is doing. I think that's been taken very well by the industry. So overall, I would say even when we do the CII CEO confidence surveys, I think the surveys are quite strong, very positive. So overall, I would say the mood is very positive, and the India-EU trade deal, I think particularly has had a massive positive impact, as in when the deal gets approved and gets finally signed and goes through the parliaments, various European parliaments. I would say that will have a very, very positive impact. The thing that I would say, if you have to look at from a concern standpoint, the currency volatility is something that is impacting industry, because it impacts more foreign direct investors, more foreign investors than I would say domestic investors. I think from a P&L standpoint, actually it's good, but no one likes so much of volatility. Although as it was as he had laid it out, that if you look at it over a 5-year or 10-year span, it is more it's more normalized. It's within what most other countries have seen. But if you take apart from that, I would say that is one area which people are watching closely. Outside of that, and also the capital markets have been very positive. So, I mean, at least the IPO market has been very active. So, companies, especially startups who are looking at listing, raising capital, I think that it's been a very, very, very positive overall. So, I would say mood is very positive. And I think the industry is looking at how the government lays out the roadmap for Viksit Bharat more clearly, particularly in terms of reforms, in terms of how do you make manufacturing more competitive in India, looking at areas around, as Mukundan had mentioned, areas around ease of doing business, on what we can do to reduce the factor cost of production, and in areas like reforms like what we're doing on disinvestments, privatization, and also skilling and R&D, which is one area which I think for India to be competitive, both from an industry standpoint and government standpoint, what can be done better there. So I would say that's where the industry is looking at. I think people have a good sense of the GDP growth number that government will be looking at, given what's been stated. The government has always maintained a very clear posture on fiscal deficit. They're following the glide path, so one assumes that they will be doing the same. So, yeah, that's the sort of overall sentiment.
About where India currently stands. But Mr. Memani, just drawing it down to individual sectors, which you briefly talked about, manufacturing, infrastructure, defense, they continue to be focus sectors for the government. Our current incentive frameworks, capex-led, PLIs, etc., do you think they're working, or do they need to be recalibrated to instill further growth?
I think PLIs or other incentives in some sectors have worked very well. In some sectors, they have not given the desired result. So some amount of recalibration as per sectors need to be done. I think in even if you look at the economic survey, and if you look at what CII has recommended. So if you analyze India's top imports, if you look at what is required for strategically important industries for India, which are the industries where India is competitive, but we are still importing, which are the areas where demand is likely to grow going forward. For example, whether it's electronics, electronic goods, items that go into data centers and others. I think we need to have a very clear structure there. What are the technology tie-ups that will be permitted? What kind of FDI will be allowed in those sectors? What are the PLI schemes that can be made available? Is there something that can be done to influence buying by Indian companies there? and how do we make those sectors, medium term to long term competitive from an export standpoint? How do we help build the supply chain vendor ecosystem in those areas? So I think that definitely is required. I think in some sectors where PLI has worked, like electronics, like semiconductors, I think it's worked very well. In some sectors, I think probably we need to rejig, rethink, and see how do we make it more effective.
As we see, there are two big challenges which is coming in. One is the capital flows. We've seen, foreign outflows, which is happening for the last 12 months. And the second one, with respect to the challenges to the labor-intensive export sectors. What do you see? How do you see these challenges getting resolved through the budget and or policy initiative? Have you recommended anything for how to manage capital outflows or how to stem that outflow? And for exporters, especially labor-intensive exporters, which have got hit because of the India-US tariff trade tariffs, is there a way out for them?
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes, sir.
I think what we really have done is, especially when we got impacted by the additional 25% tariff, we've had detailed meetings with the government, sector by sector, and we've worked on two fronts. One is to identify alternate markets so that we can pivot to those markets. And secondly, we've also looked at how do we sort of support those sectors in the interim. And I think both these have worked very well. I think the Indian those sectors, especially textiles, gems and jewelry, have worked very hard in the last few months and have continued to show, despite the kind of impact, the impact has not been as sharp as what they would have been had we done nothing. So I think that's one response. How do we address the immediate concern? The second one is what Rajiv has already highlighted. The big positive boost for these sectors has come from the India-EU trade deal, which, if it gets done by next year, I think we would probably be on a better footing than what we are today. And in addition to that, of course, the slew of trade deals we've done, whether it be with UAE, with Oman, with Australia, UK, I think they've all gone in the right direction to sort of at least build in a bit of cushion. But your point is valid that I think we need to continue to engage to get the biggest trade deal done. And I think on that also the work is underway. I think there's been a very pragmatic approach by government in terms of addressing that for the good of the sectors which have been most impacted. But the immediate effort has been, how do we diversify? How do we sort of move markets beyond? And companies which have done that very, very positively have actually been able to be more resilient in that front. And that can be seen in the trade numbers also. So I'm not saying for a moment that we should not pursue any, but I think we should pursue that with confidence that we can address these issues positively. On the second front, of course, I think the making sure that we are able to support them during this period through cash flows, through banking lines of credit. I think that's another angle which government has dealt on a specific basis, and it's been done on a case-to-case basis.
Mr. Memani, would you like to add to that? What's CII's top ask to protect India's export competitiveness?
I think India's export competitiveness can only be protected by reducing the factor costs of production. I think that, and helping and doing the reforms that are required to reduce logistics cost, energy costs, and also making land available, making greater pools of land available. So I think what we have done is to produce a document which we have given to various ministries in government, and what are the reforms that will help in achieving these reduction in factor cost of production. And I must say that government on its own, through two of its reform committees and individual ministries, are progressing at a very rapid pace in implementing the changes, the reforms that are there. So I think, for example, if you just look at power cost, we have said that today the accumulated losses are more than 6.5 lakh crores in the distribution companies. We should look at privatization. That will also ensure that it eliminates any cross subsidy because of which the industry has to subsidize. Or, how do we accelerate building of the transmission, capacity, so that the related issues around acquisition of land any cross subsidy that is required, I don't think or for even for captives, the access charges or cross subsidies, how can they be taken out so that if any subsidy is to be provided, it is provided directly by the state government to the consumers or to those people who they want to support. So I would say if you go sector by sector, segment by segment, these are the recommendations that we've been making from our standpoint. So that is one area and to answer your other question, I don't think we are making any suggestions to control net FDI or any suggestions, but I think definitely suggestions are there to say how you can improve gross FDI, which is, there are areas, there are sectors where, for example, in case of, PSU banks, can we raise the FDI threshold from 20% to 51%. So areas where FDI can be improved further. And the other avenue of FDI improvement, as Piruz had mentioned earlier, is to ensure that there is more predictability and more mechanisms for alternative dispute resolutions from a tax standpoint. So not so much on the absolute tax rates, but much more to do with how do we ensure that there's more predictability, dispute resolution mechanisms are faster, alternative dispute resolutions are there, and also a mechanism just to take advance ruling is there.
Firoz, is there any expectation that you have from the capital markets point of view, especially capital gains? Do you see government tinkering with capital gains regime?
I personally have I cannot predict. So let me put it this way. But my general sense is that capital gain in India should be in line with capital gain in other countries which India is now competing with. And we need to encourage investment in a big way. So I definitely believe capital gain tax can do that. It can also bring more funds into the capital markets. If you see even the last few months, you can see the Indians are the ones who are investing in India. The foreigners are living with the money. So I think time has come to understand that, how to really incentivize the people who want to invest. And also remember, in capital gains, I always say, cost of inflation also. As such, inflation itself is the tax. So there's a tax is not, you say, okay, the capital gain is only 10%. What about inflation? If I'm holding something for 10 years and I'm paying inflation of 5% every year, that itself is a tax. So my general belief is that the government should look at it, but I would want it in a long-term view. I don't want it should be like short-term use, change here and there. Should have a view, and then we should keep it for a few years, if you ask me.
Mukundan, before we wind up, what's the one big ask if the finance minister were to deliver just one big change this budget? What would your recommendation be?
Sorry, if you're asking me, I think what we want to do, again, is what you all started with. We all want predictability, we want continuity, but at the same time, focus on ease of doing business, because industry can rise up to the challenge and can respond. I think we just need to make sure that their responsiveness can be supported by all the measures which have already been highlighted in the economic survey, and moving forward, both at the central level and at the state level. That will be one big issue. The second one, of course, what Rajiv has already highlighted, any factor cost reduction, improvement in factor cost is always going to reduce the cost of business. And that goes right across, and already has been highlighted that two areas which are biggest factor cost for any business is power and logistics. Continued focus on ensuring that we are competitive in these two is the right approach in many ways. We can control what we want, and that's what we should focus on.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure talking to you today. Mr. Memani, Mr. Mukundan, and Mr. Khambatta, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now. We'll again touch back with you on Feb 1st after the Finance Minister delivers her budget speech, and get your take on what you felt and what are the policies which were worth highlighting on that day. Thank you very much for joining us today on this special election, special budget coverage on ET Now.